Hey everybody, it's Scotty from Scotty's Record Shop with another artist profile for this week. And before I get into that, and I set my mouse where I can see everything, or try to, I'd just like to thank everybody who watches these silly things and all the people who subscribe to the channel. There's well over 200 people. Moving towards 300. That's really cool. Like I always say, it's not always about the numbers, but it's really wonderful to know that people are actually watching these things and hopefully appreciating them. As you can tell by the header up above, this is an artist profile for AC/DC. Other people have done more extensive. I was watching one the other day where this guy had like multiple copies from all over the globe of different pressings. These are all going to be US pressings, but just with my input. These are all original US pressings from 76 through 85. Yeah, 85 was the last album that I have from them on vinyl. Anyway, so before we get into this too far, I want to talk about an era of the band that really doesn't get addressed by the band at all. To my knowledge, they haven't issued anything. When they had a different lead singer, we all know about Bon and we all know about Brian, but a lot of AC/DC fans know about David too, David Evans. He sang for AC/DC for like a very short time in between, I believe it was 73 and 74. They put out one single. They put out the single Can I Sit Next to You, Babe? And Rockin' in the Parlor. Great songs. He was a good singer, maybe not as charismatic or whatever as Bon was. I think they made a good choice by getting Bon Scott, but the fact that the band didn't put, you've got this single out, and there's other stuff that was recorded by him, which was supposed to be the first album, that never got released, which they went in and had Bon sing over, and that's fine, I guess, but it'd be really nice to hear some of that stuff. Right now, all you can find is, because the original single is really, really tough to find. It did well in Australia, but it just wasn't. It's just tough to find. You can hear it on YouTube, those two particular songs with Dave singing. And there's a live thing that I have from '74 with him singing. I can't remember exactly. It's from some hotel or something. And it's really good. I mean, it's not the Bon Scott era, but it deserves some look. It deserves some recognition from the band. My personal opinion, probably a lot of other people too. Okay, let's talk about the vinyl. The first album, 1974, High Voltage. But not the High Voltage we have. We have this High Voltage here in America. Great album. The only thing is, this is actually a combination of High Voltage and TNT, the Australian pressings. This is on Atco. I got that right there? Close enough, yeah. Atco, it's upside down. Sorry about that, guys. I'll flip the record upside down. But anyway, there's a couple of songs off this from the very first album, which was entitled High Voltage, the Australian pressing. Kind of hard to get. The thing that really, another beef that I have about the band is that they haven't, from my knowledge, issued the original Australian versions of their first 4 albums, which would be really awesome. They have different covers. In the case of High Voltage, there's some stuff that just is really hard to find from that. But when you go to the store now, a record store or wherever, to buy High Voltage, this is what you get. It's a great record, but anyway. Of course, like I said, 74 High Voltage, 75 TNT, which had most of the tracks off of this. This was almost TNT, you know what I'm saying? A great album, different cover, a really cool cover as well. I really wish you could get those. Yeah, I mean, you can probably get them on eBay, but they're not official releases. Someday, maybe. Okay, the next record, Dirty Deeds, Done Dirt Cheap, was issued in Australia in 1976, and actually in Europe in 1976 as well. Different covers, different track listing somewhat. I'll get to that in a little bit. We didn't get it in America until, what, 81 or so? Let There Be Rock was the next one we got here in America. This is also, I'll show you That. Also on Echo. Great album. This was really their third album, even though it was the second one we got in America. The only really difference between this one and its Australian counterpart, two things. The cover, which I like this cover quite a bit, so I'm cool with the cover. But there's one song we get, Problem Child. First time we hear it in America on this album, but Problem Child actually was on Dirty Deeds. And it will be on Dirty Deeds when we get it again in '81. They replaced Dirty Deeds, not Dirty Deeds, but Problem Child on this album for the U.S. version with a song called Crabsody in Blue. You know, Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue. Anybody who's somewhat cultured and likes older music. Wonderful piece of music. Well, you know, leave it up to the Young brothers to trash that. And Crabsody, a song about the toils and problems of having that particular problem. Okay, well, anyway, for some reason, I can't imagine why the U.S. Atlantic and Adco said, no, we don't want that song on our album. Whatever. So, but this is a great album for them. Great album. Next one, Powerage. Great cover. There are the boys on the back. Full Atlantic. At this point, we're on Atlantic now. Adco is just a subsidiary anyway, so but they're moving up in the world, so to speak. 1978 for this. Great record. We get a live album next. If You Want Blood. There's a little gory cover on that one. This really showed what this band could do live. Just, they really cranked live. The Bon Scott era is my favorite era. Again, just for the sake of, this is the label I have. The inner sleeve anyway. This is yeah, this is pretty close. I think this is an original pressing. It doesn't have the barcode. Get this back in here. Great album. Then we get to the last album. This one, when I was watching a video of this other person who had tons of AC/DC stuff. Great video. The cover was similar, but a little different. It had the same picture, but it was just graphically done a little bit different. Highway to Hell, 1979. This album really kind of broke them here. Really major big time in America. People were just really getting rid of... it's funny because, just a funny side note, like I'm yapping too much, but I remember when this album came out, you know, being in like junior high and being really into Kiss. And at this point in time, Kiss was kind of going disco-y. You know, I Was Made for Loving You. And this, everybody was like, okay, Kiss is out, AC/DC's in. It's kind of weird and stupid and kind of childish, teenage-ish, but there's your Atlantic. A great record, though. Of course, Bon Scott had to go and die in early 1980. My memory of that was actually finding out I was visiting my grandparents in Lawrence, Massachusetts, and I was listening to WBCN. It was at night, and they had announced that he had passed away, and were playing a ton of AC/DC music in tribute to him. It was really, really sad. I was, I'd just really gotten into this band in '79, and it's like all of a sudden it seemed like it was all over. But wait, it wasn't all over. They acquire a new singer, and they put out this album that most people might know about, 1980, Back in Black. This is an oldie but goodie cover, but the album plays well. Kind of hard to get this in really super perfectly mint shape because it's all black, Here's your inner sleeve. Brian does a really good job picking things up where Bon left off, but I'll be honest with you, I don't like hearing Brian Johnson singing Bon Scott. It just doesn't go well for me. There's your Atlantic label for that one, and they're gonna better look at this because there's a theme going to be started here with label art. Great album, Back in Black. One of the biggest selling albums of all time, as a matter of fact. Then finally we get here in America, And I part of the reason I'm doing this is because I picked on AC/DC. I picked on this album cover, not on AC/DC, on one of my last videos. What do you think is the worst album cover of all time? This is one of them. Ugh. I'm not even going to go through it again. But anyway, great album. Not exactly the original track listing or whatever that was on the Australian pressing, if you're, you know. But really happy to see this one come along. It was like, okay, more of Bon Scott singing after we thought that he was, everything was done, being released by him anyway. Next one we get, For Those About to Rock. Gatefold. This is a great album too. Maybe not quite as good as Back in Black, but still a good album. This is where the point where my love for AC/DC kind of dwindled a little bit. Again, I said there was going to be a theme here. Look at that. Very similar layout, but it's just a different color for this Atlantic label. A good album, though, from them, For Those About to Rock. We get a little more Bon Scott. Atlantic Records in the United States is doing this stuff piecemeal as far as releasing stuff that... This is all stuff that... I believe this was all stuff that was on the original High Voltage album in Australia. I'm looking here on Jailbreak. No, Jailbreak was actually off of For Those About... Not For Those About to Rock, but off of Dirty Deeds. Jailbreak was originally from You Ain't Got a Hold of Me. Was, I believe, from the first album. Show Business was from the first album. Soul Stripper was from the first album. And Baby Please Don't Go was on the first album. Another great song, I believe it was called Love Song. A ballad by AC/DC, which didn't appear on anything up until not too long ago, was from the first album. 74 Jailbreak. It's a nice little EP from them. My beef about this is, there was enough leftover Bon Scott material to make a full album. Could have done it, but nope. They chose not to. I think that would have been a lot better if they just would have thrown the rest of the stuff, Crapsody and Blue and all that stuff on there. Fix this again. A couple more to go. At this point in time, my AC/DC desire kind of went, a little bit down. Flick of the Switch was the next one. Not quite as good. In my opinion. I mean, there's some great stuff on here, but consistently they're not producing stuff quite as good as Back in Black, for sure. But again, there's that label again, and it's white this time, white and black. Kind of going with the color theme. My last one for you, on vinyl anyway, that I'm going to show, is probably my least favorite AC/DC album. No, I don't want to say that because then I'll get a bunch of people go, oh, it wasn't bad, I loved it. But I just, really kind of lost interest with them. Again, there was a couple of really good songs on here, but overall, the joke with people, the best part of this was the cover. But no, I don't want to be that cruel. And of course, there you go. That label. So anyway, plenty more AC/DC stuff on CD. Of course, if you like Bon Scott, of course, you've got to get Bonfire. That box set that came out, in 97 or so. That was a great one. But anyway, that's my AC/DC on vinyl anyway collection and a bunch of probably unnecessary comments on the side. I thank you, as always, for watching these silly things. And until next time, everybody, peace and love.